Got my coffee and today's guests here with me, so we're ready to roll. Welcome to the Circular Coffee Break podcast, where we will be talking about everything circular and beyond. Now, as always, if you have ideas, suggestions, or you just want to be in touch, please drop us a note, either on our new webpage at circularcoffeebreak.com or at circularcoffeebreak@gmail.com. We're eager to hear from you to make the podcast even more relevant and more interesting for all of you. So drop us whatever you think, whatever you would like to hear in future episodes. Today, I'm excited to have two guests with me for the episode. Riikka Olli, co-founder and CEO of Menddie, an online platform that provides quick and easy access to premium repair services for clothes and accessories. And Jenni Homer, director retail at Nanso Group, one of the most well-known fashion brands in Finland. So Jenni is a seasoned fashion and retail professional with over 20 years in the industry. Throughout her career, she had stops at companies like Levi Strauss & Co., Urban Outfitters, Aldo Group, Formark UK, and Esprit before joining Nanso Group in April 2018. Riikka has a long background in e-commerce in Finland, France, Russia, and the UK. During her career, she worked at Pixarmania in France, PayPal in France and Russia, and InPost in the UK. Since 2019, she has been a founder or co-founder of different startups before taking the CEO role at Menddie in November 2021. Really excited. Welcome to the show, Jenni and Riikka.
Thank you. Really excited to be here.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great to have you here. And we already had a couple of technical issues before we got started. So let's hope the technology stays with us for the duration of the podcast. Fingers crossed. Now, the reason I have the pleasure of welcoming both of you on the podcast today is the fact that Nanso and Menddie actually launched a partnership not that long ago. So to get us started, could you briefly talk about the partnership and how the launch has gone? So how have things started? How are they going at the moment? Jenni, if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. So Menddie is an absolutely wonderful case for us. It started off first with us offering our consumers, our customers, the possibility to repair items instead of returning them if they had some small fault that was easily repairable. And then last autumn, we were discussing what other possibilities we could have together, just having a chat with Riikka. And I think I mentioned that we had some products which we had to pull from the market or sometimes sell as faulty with a little bit of a discount, and a whole heap of products from even the past 7 to 8 years that had accumulated at our warehouse. They were basically returned items from e-com business, which we couldn't resell because they were either slightly broken or maybe just had deodorant stains or makeup stains or whatever that made it kind of impossible to sell them as they were. And we already made the decision a long time ago that we won't destroy any products, that one day we'll find a solution for this. So they were kind of just sat there waiting in the warehouse for somebody to come up with a good idea. And I think, and Riikka, you can obviously continue then, but you tested it out in the Ready shopping center where they had a secondhand market, and you had a kind of a small section, and you said, what if we put some repaired items to be sold in there and just see how it goes. And it kind of grew from there. And beginning of this year, we decided that, okay, you know what, we're going to make this into like a whole new concept. We're going to think about how we're going to market it, sell it, and what can we grow this into. And then we decided on this New Life Uusi Elämä collection. So it kind of started with something small and then took on more ideas as we went on. And it's a very kind of easy partnership from our side. Riikka has made it really easy for us to kind of repair and just wash or whatever needs doing to the products that have been returned and can't be sold normally. So yeah, it's been a real success. So far, we've sold about 1,000 pieces since we
Wow,
launched
cool.
in March this spring. That's not actually very much for us, but our main issue is that we don't have much stock of it because our products are relatively high quality, so we don't get a lot of returns in the first place. And we would have sold a lot more if we had more stock. We can't even sell them in all of our stores because there just isn't enough stock to go around. So we've selected sort of a few stores where it's available at the moment.
Cool. Great to hear that the concept is flying. Riikka, anything to add from your side?
I mean, you went through the journey that I think we've been to. Maybe just to highlight, like for the listeners there, what I really kind of like about this journey is that obviously it started off from the problem and like you were having, and kind of the desire to do something about that. And I think, you know, in the circular economy or the circular services point of view, this is, to me at least, such a good example how we can actually make concrete things. And I think then when I reflect on it now, it's obviously we took then the choice of trying it, like piloting it in a very tiny kind of way in the Ready mall, and that being at least giving us a kind of a positive vibe about that allowed Nanso to kind of take the step further. And I guess we're going to talk about this, and I hope Jenni will talk about this, but I think I'm amazed how Nanso kind of came up with the concept of New Life. Like it completely kind of transforms the, like we would say, kind of disregarded or side flow products that we very often kind of say, well, okay, this is the kind of the sale section, or okay, we just have to figure out a way to get kind of rid of them, where the value is obviously kind of downgraded. Whereas here, I just find, like, I'm amazed how brilliantly the team came up with the concept on a marketing perspective as well.
Yeah, we do have a very good in-house team. They have been awarded for some campaigns as well, and everything is done in-house, and really amazing team. And I guess in a business sense, other brands might be interested to find that we used to sell faulty items with a discount in some of our outlet stores, and they would be kind of tucked away in the last little corner.
Yeah.
And like very affordable prices. And with these New Life products, after they've been fixed, we can sell them now for like 3 times the price, and actually make quite good, okay margins on them. And we've moved them to our flagship stores. They're no longer at the back end of the outlet. Now they're like in the best place in the store, and people are really delighted. And also we've had a whole new segment of consumers interested in this, who are probably more of a sort of circular fashion segment in the first place, who probably do secondhand shopping a lot. And now they're coming to our stores to check out what is on the New Life rack. So it has kind of opened up new business possibilities as well.
Cool. No, and I think you have a very valid point there. Very often the circular economy pilots we're seeing are kind of artificially made up just to do something in circularity and just to try it out, instead of starting with a real problem, starting with a real challenge, and then develop solutions from there. So I think this is a fantastic example where you really start from a real problem that needs solving and then look for solutions on that. Now, Jenni, Nanso is a very old, or should I say traditional company, as it was established in 1921 in Pirkanmaa, and has a very long history. From your point of view, why is sustainability, why is circularity important for Nanso, and why did you enter into the partnership with Menddie?
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic. Of course, Nanso Group as a company has a really long history. And of course, Nanso used to be one of the main players on the manufacturing front in Finland in textiles industry, mainly focusing on jersey and undergarments and socks and such. And many people still remember these times. And even though we had to give up the manufacturing in Finland because of cost and just general survival of the company, the quality aspect hasn't changed. So the core of Nanso was always built around the idea of long-lasting quality. That's still our main approach to design, to material choices, and to sustainability in general. And it feels kind of completely natural with that in mind to want to prolong the use of our products. If there are minor faults or something that can easily be fixed, why wouldn't you? Because the rest of the product is still usually in great condition. And of course, we're a relatively small company. We employ some 30 people in our office and 100 people in our stores. But it means that we don't have resources to like build platforms ourselves or kind of have seamstresses sitting waiting around or anything. So Menddie, in that sense, is the perfect partner for us. They can take care of it, and I don't think we could have been able to like do anything like it if Menddie didn't have the infrastructure in place to handle everything. So in that sense, yeah, it feels like quite a natural step for us to take.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think in general, the mindset has changed a lot. You already mentioned it earlier that new customer segments are coming in, but also in companies, in ownership, the mindset has been changing a lot. And it's great to see that also traditional companies that have been around for a long time are picking this up and are giving it the priority that it, to be honest, deserves in today's society, and that customers attach to it in that context. Now, Riikka, Menddie was established in 2021 with the mission to build tech to enable circular commerce and remarket growth. How important do you feel partnerships like the one with Nanso are for the growth of Menddie, but also to basically accelerate the transition towards more circular fashion and a more circular fashion industry as a whole?
I mean, crucial. Obviously, just purely you mentioned there that very often these circularity or circular services, they're done kind of touching the surface and kind of not necessarily, we're kind of afraid to taking a bigger steps, or at least like coming out with concepts as the new life, for example. I think obviously the industry has now some history of doing things in certain ways. So obviously changing, for example, simply this thing that you actually in the store, as Nanso now has, you would have the rack with the new life items next to the new collection, and that kind of is a normal thing, and actually something that the consumers, well, I think they want to see, and I think in that sense, this particular example, both for obviously Menddie's kind of future and overall for the industry, we need these examples, because we kind of like, I guess from the industry or business point of view, we can come up with all types of concepts and ideas, but until someone actually does the thing and tries and obviously with a little bit of trial and error, so these are absolutely essential. And hence I kind of feel that it's so important that we kind of come and we speak about these kind of both from the brand's perspective, because I think there's and you can comment on that, but I guess there's a lot of, I feel a bit like hesitation maybe. It's like, if we come out with something like this, will it kind of jeopardize the new collection, and will there be some churn from the customers? And those are obviously all valid concerns. But so yeah, I mean, this is really why I think lovely that Jenni is also so open to speak about the concept, because I think we need to bring exactly these kind of ideas and kind of bring them forward for other brands to see that there are these ways to do things.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen this in other industries where you have a very great ecosystem, where you have startups, where you have young companies that develop new concepts, new ideas, and then you have more established companies that have their strengths in other areas that are then basically able to pick them up, scale them, and actually drive them into the market. So there is a very good work split, so to say, between the companies. Now, you both look, as we just established, at the transition towards circularity and sustainable fashion from very different angles. One from a very traditional company that has been in the business for over 100 years. I think it's 102 years if I calculate correctly. And then on the other side, Menddie as a young company celebrating, if I calculate correctly, the second birthday or third birthday soon. So is there something you have learned and you could share with our listeners with regards to partnering for circularity, specifically considering the different starting points and what I assume different clock speeds, different perspectives, different mindsets, maybe partially in the cooperation between startups and traditional players, that other companies that want to try something similar maybe could consider or should have in mind? Riikka, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel kind of like saying that it's not that, obviously we, as a small startup team, we might be a little bit more agile. Like, obviously we work on a tech product, and that obviously gives us, and I hope that's really the value we want to bring to the industry and to those brands. In this case, they are our customers, and I think, I mean, I guess maybe this is then more from my personal perspective, and I think Jenni can to some extent relate to that. I think I had the experience. I knew that with bigger companies, it takes time. Like we cannot come in and then sort of be frustrated if the things don't happen in 1 month's time. It's going to take a couple of months. And I think this is sort of almost like the sales cycle or the cycle of a product, like a project that at least I think I was very realistic. And I think as startup community, we need to be very, very realistic. Then obviously, I think it's more from the corporation or the bigger company's perspective, is like just trying to work with someone like a startup just to make the most of it. Maybe that can give some sort of ideas and obviously help them in certain aspects. But I think it's very, from startup point of view, it's quite natural.
Jenni, what's your perspective? What were your learnings?
Yeah, I guess similar to Riikka's in the sense that, like I said, even though we're a well-known brand, we're not that big in terms of there's not a lot of like leadership ranks to go through to get decisions made or anything like that. So it really has been mostly me and Riikka deciding what we do, and then the practicalities have, of course, like maybe needed some time after that. And it's been very easy to start with small tests here and there. It hasn't required very much in that sense from us. And I guess with marketing being in-house, it didn't in that sense take very long to develop a concept and decide where we launch it. But then it's of course all the things of, well, what else do we need to consider? Like what are the possible costs? What are the who's going to send what, where, who's going to decide like which stores get these, and just figuring out a lot of the practical steps as well, and how can we monetize this? How can we make it into something that will last a bit longer than just be a trial? But at the same time, I think we went into it saying like, well, let's start with something and let's see where it takes us. It doesn't have to be a fully complete concept. We can just test and modify as we go along as well. So I guess in that sense, if you compare Nanso to some global companies, we're not that big. It's not that difficult. We're still operating just within the Finnish market. And in that sense, maybe not that complicated as it might be.
Yeah, and I guess this feels like adding there that exactly this. I think, obviously, Nanso, you guys are in a very ideal position to work on things like this because you have these things in house, and a lot of that like decision making can be very quick. Where I guess the challenges or where I can kind of identify them is I guess today a lot of the companies, we're kind of optimizing a lot of the processes, whether that's kind of the supply chain, whether that's those returns, for example, and different parts of the kind of the life cycle of the product. And obviously, kind of I feel at least that more you're optimized, obviously more rigid your processes become. It becomes harder to kind of say, let's just kind of try out something else. And obviously then that becomes more challenging. But I guess, for those discussions and those strategical, almost like decisions, I hope that exactly through cases like this, we can start showing that when we talk about circular services, like, yeah, we can actually run a pilot, or like we can run a trial with relatively sort of limited impact just to kind of try it out. You don't have to kind of break the whole procedure for that. And I hope really to see more of this happening, where actually the startups can be in a great position to kind of help out and be the ones to make these things happen then.
Yeah, absolutely. And it naturally also reduces the threshold to some extent. If you as a company can say, okay, let's go partner with startup XYZ, we don't need to build up the capabilities ourselves. We don't need to do heavy investments into building up specific capabilities, but we basically run a pilot with a startup. If it works, fantastic, we scale it. If it doesn't, then okay, we part ways, and we're still in a good position in that setup. At the same time, it naturally very often is also related to the mindset of people, and specifically in more traditional companies, you very often have this, let's call it learned behavior. This is how we've always done it. We have never sold broken products. So we have never basically sold products that have come back from our customers. And sometimes you need to overcome that. It's not a technical problem. It's not a process problem. It's not an operational problem, but it's this learned behavior that very often is prohibiting that. And it's great to hear that in Nanso and then in combination with Menddie, you were able to build on a very customer-centric, value-centric approach that enabled you to have this pilot approach in that context, which I believe is critical in that context. Now, looking at the partnership, where will you take it? What's the final target? What are the next steps you're planning on the journey?
Go ahead, Jenni.
Yes, some of the things we're working on is, for example, upcycling. So we still have some products. I think it was roughly half, wasn't it, Riikka? We checked at some point that roughly half we're able to fix at this time or wash or whatever is needed, but some might have a hole or something that you can't repair without it being very, very visible, or perhaps even changing the nature or the fit of the garment. So that's something that we'd like to tackle next, finding a Nanso way of upcycling products that can't maybe just be fixed in a normal fashion. And then Riikka is obviously working with the Menddie team on a lot of things for the platform. And I don't know, do you want to highlight some of those? I don't want to kind of tell people about things that you were then kind of like...
That shouldn't be public.
Yeah, no. I mean, and I guess purpose is not to make this a marketing video either. But I think, similar to obviously our Nanso collaboration, and where we want to kind of bring the industry at the end, I think, is I think first of all, we've had this, what we sort of call, warranty type of repairs. So we're kind of trying to make this easier, because there are still a lot of brands that don't even necessarily offer warranty, or like are very rigid about offering warranty. So we're trying to kind of improve that side of things. Also, everything that is sort of outside of warranty, I think at least I am very curious, and I think this is maybe something we can start looking at longer term with Nanso, is kind of how do actually these services engage the consumers better, because I guess, the fact that you offer, whether you have your resale selection, you have your repair service, you have your whatever rental that is, how do we kind of walk with the customer through these services, and how do we kind of engage the customer? I think that's very valuable for the brand, because I think in the future, and I just feel that that's one of the kind of challenges, is like, or trying to take away some risk of that, like, oh, but what if we change the model? Like, what if we do these things? It's like, I think we need to look at it from this customer, because I think this is also what is needed, because like Jenni was saying about the new life, they're kind of seeing new type of customers coming to the stores. It's like, it almost feels like it's a new way of serving customers. And at least I'm kind of very excited about that, because that opens another sort of way of kind of engaging and activating your customers. And yeah, obviously, lastly, the sort of this kind of almost like new collection development. I think, upcycling is definitely one side of it. Some forms of take back programs or things like that, where again, actually we connect with the customer. And I think there's a lot of this kind of almost like education that needs to happen. And I think I at least I have been quite surprised sometimes when people talk about their repairs. It's like, oh, but I didn't know that this kind of repair was possible, or I didn't know that you can upcycle, or you can care. At the end, we shared the one case of the knitwear kind of care. It's like people are like, we need to bring these things to people and let people experience them. That's what I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah, and I mean, in the past, it was completely normal to repair, I don't know, devices, clothes, whatever, and it was done. Everyone did it either at home, or you basically had the small shop around the corner that would do that, and we have forgotten about that. So in our new world with fast fashion and all of that, we have to relearn that. So I think that's a very good point you're raising there. That is an important element. Now, you already mentioned the broader industry and the impact on the broader industry, and there's a lot happening around sustainable and circular fashion across different brands, different retailers, and so on. Now, from your point of view, in your experience, and also based on the learnings from the partnership, where do you see the biggest opportunities and challenges going forward in basically addressing this on an industry level and basically scaling this? Jenni, if you have a perspective.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, on an EU level, there's a lot of new legislation coming. That's going to be, hopefully a good thing, pushing a lot of brands to up their game, so to speak. And of course, then the growth of the secondhand market in general, it has, of course, like really taken off. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more brands taking that into their own hands, or possibly through partnerships or however, but not wanting to kind of lose that customer anymore. And at the same time, I think something, because of the secondhand market, and whether it's fixed products or just used products or whatever, I think we're going to see more and more brands start to communicate the resale value of items, and hopefully in that sense trying to make people understand that perhaps buying a slightly more expensive quality item in the long run pays off compared to a sort of lower quality, cheaper option. So hopefully there will be a lot of these kind of more openness as well, in the sense of why why people should, what's the added value in a way to the customer. And that's still quite new in clothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Riikka, anything to add from your perspective?
I think I had similar thoughts than Jenni there, very similar. From the legislation, there's a lot of pressure on transparency, I guess, simply. Maybe a lot of pressure on that fast fashion business model that obviously is still thriving to some extent. But there's a big kind of, that there's a lot of kind of movement there towards these kind of more responsible, more transparent on all of the kind of, from legislation, from customer, from sort of governments, and from everywhere. So it's a very exciting time, and kind of hopeful as well, obviously from kind of social, environmental perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have never before seen that momentum in this space that we see today, and the very broad action happening by various stakeholders, the regulator, the investors, very often ownership, the companies, the brands, the consumers. Cool. The coffee is empty and it's time to wrap up. Now, before we close, if our listeners are interested to learn more about the Menddie and Nanso partnership, or if they want to check out the Uusi Elämä or New Life collection, where would they find more information? You mentioned it's only a couple of your shops that are currently able to take part in the partnership. Where would they go to find out more?
Yes, so you can just about the whole concept and the partnership, you can find more information on our website, so nanso.com, under the sustainability topic or vastuullisuus. Unfortunately, though, the website is only in Finnish, which is a little bit embarrassing to say here, but we're working on it. But yeah, for right now, it's only there in Finnish, and also the list of the stores which are selling it at the moment are. But in Helsinki, for example, we just opened a new flagship store 2 weeks ago in Kluuvi on Aleksanterin Katu. So, for example, there you can find quite a good selection of the Uusi Elämä products.
Perfect. Yeah, and I learned Google Translate works very well on the web pages that are only in Finnish. So if we have people listening that are non versed in Finnish, they can definitely use Google Translate and still find the shops that they can go to. Thanks a lot for joining me today, Jenni and Riikka, and for sharing your experience and insights. Really exciting. Best of luck with the partnership going forward. I hope next time we talk, it's not 1,000 pieces, but maybe 10,000 or even more that we're talking about. I think it's a great way of really contributing to the circularity of fashion. So thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for all you listeners out there, we hope you found today's episode interesting, inspiring, and you got some new ideas and some new topics to think about. As mentioned at the top of the show, please feel free to be in touch through the Circular Coffee Break webpage, circularcoffeebreak.com, or by dropping us an email at circularcoffeebreak@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us either on your favorite podcasting platform or on LinkedIn, where we will post the latest episodes, to make sure that you're not missing any of the future episodes that are dropping on a bi-weekly basis. We have a long list of really interesting guests coming up on various topics. So really looking forward to that as well. Now, thanks for listening, and we're looking forward to seeing all of you here on the Circular Coffee Break.